So this is going to be the first project where you are starting a Photoshop document completely on your own. You're not opening up any existing image. So there are a few set dimensions that you need to pay attention to. So in Google Classroom, I did tell you what to name your file and what your Photoshop dimensions were. So you're going to click on Create New in Photoshop. And then these are preset templates of sizes. So if you were gonna print something out, then there's like a print tab. There's stuff for the web, film and video. There's different dimensions for a variety of things. Since you are being given specific dimensions, we're going to use those dimensions and input them here. So by default, a lot of you are going to have yours set to pixels. So we need to change that to inches. And then I did specify you needed to have it be 18 by 24. So it's going to be 18 in width, 24 in height. And you'll notice your orientation will switch depending on what it is. If I wanted it to be in a landscape type of orientation like this, then it swaps the sizes, but we want it like this in a portrait view. Your resolution, this is fine at, or let's do, yeah, no, let's keep it at 150. If you have it set to 300, that's okay. I'm not going to make a big deal of resolution right now. Resolution comes into play when you actually start printing things in a large scale. So no worries on that. Everything else stays the same. Up here where it says untitled, this is your file name. So we do know the file name already. You can copy paste it from Google Classroom or you can type it up. So it was 02, which is the number of the project, underscore, and then your initials, and then underscore, and then the name of the project, which is portrait. And we're going to click create. And if you notice, this is our file name already on here. So when we go save it, so we're going to go file, save as. We don't need to name it anymore because it's going to be up there. So go ahead and save it to the correct folder on your desktop, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my own folder inside my digital media folder just to keep things more organized. Save there. So now we have our document saved. We have it named, we have it saved to a specific location. That way, whatever you add to this space, you can just hit Command S on your keyboard and it'll automatically save any changes you've made because you already have the file made. So in the last assignment, you learned how to use layers and how they work, how to move them, stuff like that. Your layers are down here. When you create a new file on Photoshop, you are mostly always given a background layer like this, and it is usually locked. We don't want to mess with this layer, just leave it alone for right now. But you are going to be creating multiple layers because you're going to be overlapping different images. So the goal for this is you're creating a self-portrait but made out of found objects. So you're going to be going back and forth between Google Images and Photoshop. So you can either do it's usually Alt Tab on a PC, but on a Mac it's Command Tab. If you do Command Tab, you can switch between programs. So here's Google. If I do Command Tab, I can go back to Photoshop easily. Or if you want to have them side by side, that might work better. So first we're going to do, let's see, cantaloupe. Oh, cantaloupe. You can do any type of object. I'm gonna go probably the fruit route. just because it's the first thing that came to mind. So the goal is to find different images of objects or food, similar to the artist that was a link to your assignment, where he creates portraits made out of different things. So you're gonna find different images that you want to use. Whoops. And all you have to do is you copy. So right click, copy, and then you're gonna go to your Photoshop, and you can go to either edit, paste, and it'll paste it here, or you can, let me undo that. You can do Command V. Command V is the shortcut to paste. And here is your melon. The other one is if you click and drag it, let's see if that works. Yep. This works on some images. There are a few that it might not work, and it might just be like some weird copyright stuff. In this case, we don't need to worry about copyright because we are using it as a small portion of a bigger image that we are creating. So I'm not too worried about copyright stuff. So here's the cantaloupe that I used. Now, another thing I want to point out is, let me take off this background by turning off the visibility. So there is a white background. So I'm going to do a zoom in right here. See that white background? We want to get rid of that. So if you remember in, I forgot what chapter it was. I believe it was chapter 3, the seashell assignment. You also learned how to select objects and get rid of their backgrounds. So we're also going to be using that here as well. And so we're going to go to the 4th tool from the top. You can either magic wand and select the white, or you can, I'm going to do Command D to deselect, or you can use the object selection and it'll select the object. Whatever works best. If you want to use the quick selection, that's totally fine too. I mostly use the magic wand whenever it's one solid color. Notice that the shadow is not included, so it might just be my tolerance level. You can mess around with the tolerance level if you need to, so it's still not including the shadow, but now this is included, so that's too much. So let me try this. I'm just going to delete and then select this here. Decrease the tolerance maybe. Little better. Let me undo this because it might have been better to do the other type of selection. So let's try the object selection instead. Yeah, that one's way better. So object selection selected the melon, but we want to delete the background. So I'm going to go to select inverse. So it's going to inverse the selection. That means the opposite. There you go. Command D to deselect. So now I have the melon without that white background. I'm going to leave the background off just so that I know if another image I bring in has a white background, I can delete it. So now I have the cantaloupe by itself. I'm going to click Command T as a shortcut to transform. I can scale it up or scale it down. I'm going to use this as the head. So I'm going to put this here and then click return. And then just proceed with the rest of the features. So I'm going to use a watermelon as a mouth. And I want the slice. Maybe I should be specific. Watermelon slice. I do want to point out there are some images that have this watermark that says whatever, like a stock photo. Try to avoid images that have that watermark like this, because we don't want that in our portrait, so I'm not going to use that one. But maybe, oh, that one has a watermark too. This one doesn't, so I'm going to click and drag. And then I'm going to use a shortcut to zoom in, which is Command plus. Hold spacebar down to move around. And let's try the object selection tool again. Oh, very nice. Select, inverse, delete. Very easy once you get used to it. And then click on my move tool, Command T to transform. Another thing I do want to point out, let's say I want to scale it down, but I want it to be squished. Right now it's scaling in proportion. That means the width and height are both scaling together. If you hold shift on your keyboard, so I'm going to push shift down, you can squish it and stretch it however you want. And then click return, and there's a mouth. So a little too wide, so right there. By the way, these little magenta lines are really helpful because it's assisting you to align things properly. So that's what that is. And click return, and then decide what I want for my eye. So kiwi, probably a slice of kiwi. Yes, this is exactly what I want. Okay, so I'm gonna do that here. And then this, I'm going to do, let's try the magic one. It kind of worked. Yeah, that's pretty decent. Command T. I know this looks ridiculous right now, but it's fine. And then I want two of these, so I'm gonna do Command C and Command V. Now, the other thing is make sure that you are labeling your layers. So this was the head, this was the mouth, this is, if I turn this off, that's the left eye, so I'm going to do L-I, which means this is the right eye. See? There you go. And then, let's see, ears. I could use another one that's a circle and just slice it, kind of like this, to do the ears. Orange slice. So luckily orange slices kind of already have some that are half circles, but let's say for example you have one and you can't find a half circle. I'm gonna bring this in and I'm going to Command plus to zoom in. So first I'm gonna get rid of the background. I'm gonna do object select. I think object select has been the better option for this so far. So select, inverse, delete. And then you can just straight up erase it if you would like. That would work. Or if you want to be very precise, use the rectangle selection and just select half of it and delete. Remember, I have that layer selected, so it's not affecting the other fruits. It's only affecting the orange layer because that's what I have selected on my layers. Command D to deselect. This is going to be the left ear. And then switch to the move tool and go up. Command T to transform and make this smaller. Click return. I'm going to show you a really cool thing that I like using. There's something called a warp tool or effect. I don't know exactly what you want to call it, but if you select whatever you want to warp and you go to, I believe it's edit, and it's under transform. So when you transform, you have different options. There's a warp option. So if I click on that, it gives you this little grid, and if you move the points, you can warp your image which is really cool. So if I wanted to give it of more of like an ear shape, this is like a really, really cool tool to use. And then if you look at the options up here, it gives you different like grid options, like 5x5. See, it gives you more so that you can tweak it around. And then you can click the check mark, and there's one ear. And then I can make a copy, so I can either do Command C, Command V, or I can grab this ear, drag it to the plus sign, and it makes a copy, but I'm going to rename it to the right ear. And I'm going to move it over here. Now I need to flip it. So I'm going to go back to Edit, Transform, but this time, instead of warp, we're going to go down to Flip Horizontal. And that flips it. There you go. There's the ear. And I can easily do that for the eyes too. So if I click on one eye, Edit, Transform, Warp, maybe that's way too many lines, so let me go back to a 3x3, or I think it was the default. I actually like the 3x3 better. And then I can give it different expressions, so if I want it, make it look like angry and evil, I don't know, I can do that. So go ahead and warp whatever you need to kind of make it fit your portrait. That way it doesn't look too generic, and it might make your idea and your concept a lot nicer, and it would make it look more intentional than just random fruit put together.